But anyway, for the mindfulness, bliss and beyond, that many people, they know a little bit about meditation, they know a little bit about spirituality, but sometimes it doesn't go deep enough, it doesn't go far enough, it doesn't really change one's life. And I'm going to start with a little anecdote. If there's any professors here, I do apologize. In any Buddhist story, it's always the professors come out second best. But that was the story of the professor who really liked his food. And when a 5-star restaurant, Michelin grade restaurant, opened up in downtown Chicago, he rang up or emailed to try and get a reservation, and they told me he had to wait for 2 months. It was such a popular restaurant, but when his 2 months came up, he had to dress in a really fancy suit. You know, sometimes I have fun with my dress code. Because there was this one occasion when I was invited to a state dinner in Canberra in the presence of Queen Elizabeth. Now that was just really a great invitation. And so I opened it and there was a problem. Dress code. There were 3 options. I mean, this is, with a queen. So it's not the queen, because the queen, Freddie Mercury, he died a few years ago. And the king, and it's only rumours that he's dead, Elvis. But anyway, this was what. So they had 3 options. And those 3 options were, the first one was black tie. Look, I'm a monk for so many years, you don't know too much except what people tell you. And I thought, wow, that's all you have to wear? No trousers, no shoes, no shirt, just a black tie. I thought, this is really weird. But then they explained to me, black tie is like code. It means just all the other stuff which goes with a black tie. So, of course, we didn't have any black ties in the monastery and no suits or anything. So I looked at the second option. And the second option was even more weird. Military uniform. I'm a monk, I'm a pacifist. So then you had the third option. And when I looked at that, my eyes went wide. Yes, I can go. You know what that third option was? Long dress. And so, as soon as I turned up, I was stopped by security. Are you meant to be here, sir? And of course, I flashed my invitation card, so they let me in, which was a relief. But anyway, going back to, what was I going back to? So, professor, yeah, this professor. Sometimes telling jokes and funny stories, it's not just done to entertain you, it's just to get your attention. Because I heard this from a Tibetan monk a long time ago. When you're giving a lecture, you've got to get people's attention first of all. And when you tell a joke, and it's a funny story, and they've got their mouth open, that is when you can put in the pill of wisdom. So you've got to get people's mouths open first of all. So, and it's the same with, people bring their kids to the talks, which is great. People always say that, where are the children in spiritual practice? It's just so boring for kids coming here. But if you give them a few funny stories, they actually remember it. And so when you ask them afterwards, well, what did I talk about tonight? I said, well, I'm not quite sure, but I remember the jokes. But with the professor, so he went to this restaurant, and they checked his reservation, and he had a reservation. So he went into the restaurant. Not really like a waiter like you see in McDonald's or somewhere. This was a really fancy restaurant. It was like a butler, in tails, a beautiful bow tie, very well groomed, who took the gentleman to his table. And there he sat the gentleman down, the professor, on the table and put his chair underneath him. He said, "Here, sir, is the menu. When you are ready, please let me know, and you can order." And he looked at the menu, and even the menu, you could see it was just almost like calligraphy, like it should be in some museum somewhere, not in a restaurant. So beautifully written and on a wonderful thick card. And he looked at the menu and said thank you to the butler, or not the butler, the waiter. And then when he looked at the menu, then he ate the menu, paid and left. Because sometimes people don't know the difference between the menu and the food. Sometimes they don't know the difference between all the words and the theories and all the ideas, what it actually means to practice. To take these teachings of like mindfulness and really take them inside and actually make it work for you. And that's the amazing thing, when you take all those instructions and it actually works for you. Now, of course, there are many people in today's world who are stressed out, but yeah, that's normal in today's world. There's very few people who aren't stressed. They're anxious, they're worried, they get cancers, they got other diseases. Every now and again when I cough, it's because of a disease which I contracted a few weeks ago. If anyone has been watching me on YouTube, I've been coughing a lot. And I caught that disease in Indonesia. It's called pony virus. Pony virus. You know, you've heard of chicken flu and all these other sort of flus named after animals. You know, mad cow disease. This is pony virus. It makes you a little horse. You know, I found out that when people grow like that when they go home or go to work tomorrow morning, they tell all their friends that silly joke. But it's much better than the other disease, which I didn't catch, because I go to many, many airports. You know, even on this trip, come all the way from Australia yesterday, and so many airports you go through. And if you catch a disease at the airport, you know what they call it? Terminal illness. But many people do have what is called terminal illness. They get cancers, they get these heart disease, they get all sorts of stuff these days. Now that is sometimes a wonderful opportunity for people, because then this gets serious. This mindfulness or this meditation, this spirituality is not just to write a book about or to discuss over a coffee table. This is life and death. Your life, your death. So it's amazing just how that really focuses your mind on actually understanding your body and understanding your mind and just how these two interact. And it's, because I've done a lot of work, with all sorts of people, but especially with cancer people, and also with people with what they call emotional. It's such a hard. I always call it disease, disorders. No, I don't like that word at all. Emotional differences, and so they're put in this category of like being schizophrenic, or being ACDC or something. I know it's not ACDC, ADD or whatever. Yeah, but all those words which we give people and classify people. Sometimes, number one, as a scientist, because I did get my degree in theoretical physics from Cambridge University, so I know what I'm talking about when it comes to science. But also to challenge some of these accepted wisdoms, to take it deeper, take it further, and to really investigate that nexus, that connection between the mind and the body. That is what I'm really fascinated with, and just how we can use that, especially in modern medicines, to actually enhance people's health, challenge accepted belief. And look, I am well connected, and one of the medicine professors, this is a good story about him, at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney, just before he retired, he gave this welcome lecture to the intake of medical students. And one of my friends was at that lecture, and where the professor said, "Welcome to this university medical facility, and 50% of what we're going to teach you over the next 4 years is wrong. My problem is I do not know which 50% it is." Now, to me, that was a scientist who used doubt as a way to push things forward, to see why it is there's things like a placebo effect, why it is that sometimes the way the mind interacts with the body can actually kill people, or can actually cure people. No, actually, what is cure anyway? One of the common friends, which John and I have, remember Angela and Siri Galhanagi and their son Sumeta. He grew up in Perth, come into the temple, but on this one occasion, he came, I was there on a Saturday afternoon, and he said he's going to retire from his job. He was only about 23, 24. He was not an intern in one of the hospitals. He said, "I can't do this job any longer." I said, "Why? What happened?" And he said that morning, one of his patients unexpectedly died. And she was only about 23, 24 years old. And he had to be the one to go to her husband, who wasn't prepared that she would die. Everything was going well. And it was a shock to him. But not just a shock, something which almost devastated his future. He had 2 young children. And this doctor had to tell the husband, the father of 2 children, that the love of his life, the woman he'd chosen and was having a family with, was no more, was gone, had died. And even though that no one could fault his medical prowess, he'd done nothing wrong, but still he felt such a failure. And so that's afterwards he said, "I cannot do this job any longer. I cannot face the possibility of actually going to say this terrible news to someone else. It was like a knife inside my heart, twisting and turning." So I told him something, and I thanked him for what he said to me that day, because it did help me change the way we look at counseling, nursing, psychology, anything which we do when we help and serve another person. And I said, "You've made a big error in what you think the duty of your profession is. The main point of your profession is not to cure, but to care." Such a simple difference, just one letter. Don't make curing your main objective, your priority. Make it caring. Because if you make caring your priority, you will never, ever have to feel a failure. You can always care for people, but you can't always cure them. And often, when you care for people, you find the cure happens by itself, almost like as a byproduct of caring. But when we make curing the most important, sometimes by curing and trying to keep it alive at all costs, that really does cause so much problems in our world. So making caring more important than curing is a very important key to enhance one's life, one's health, one's joy. Because you never have to feel a failure if you make caring more important than curing. And that happens in so many parts of our life. You can be aware of yourself when you are sick. Do you want to cure yourself? You want to get better? If you say you're getting better, it means you're not good enough right now. You're stigmatizing yourself. You want to improve. Why the heck do you want to improve? Aren't you good enough already? That's why I just really against self-improvement courses. Who's actually saying you're not good enough, you need to improve? In fact, I do remember this gentleman who went to the bookshop and said, where is the section on self-help? And the receptionist at the bookshop replied, "Sir, if I told you, it would defeat the purpose." But one of the stories which I've been telling just about every other talk, which many of you see me on YouTube would have heard many times already, was a very moving story for me. And the reason was that I was invited to give a talk at the Mental Health Week over in Western Australia some years ago. And this was not to the professors, to the doctors, to the psychologists. This was actually to the clients, those who'd been through the system, and so hadn't really helped them enough yet. So they were coming to see another angle. And that's where I told them about the trees in the forest. It's all about self-improvement and how ridiculous it is. The trees in the forest. Again, that's part of insight, and part of mindfulness. What spirituality is all about. Try to see things in a different way. Look at it from a different angle, which actually helps and produces, what other methods or therapies fail to produce. And this is the trees in the forest, was if ever you go to any forest, anywhere in the world, you try and find a perfect tree for me. Straight away, what do I mean by a perfect tree? You try and look for one which is perfectly straight, with all of the branches in place, with no leaves which are brown, yellow, and been eaten by bugs, with no disease anywhere in the branches or the twigs or the leaves, with a bark nice and smooth, which has not been damaged. And you will find such perfect trees do not exist in a natural forest. Maybe in a plantation or something, but in natural real forests, every tree is bent, crooked, twisted, and got all these knobbles on the trunk. Where did all that twist and bent and damage come from? It comes from life, from the storms of nature. And so, I said, if you are bent and twisted and got old scars on you, number one, you belong, as any other tree in a forest belongs. Because you know what happens when people are stigmatized? They don't belong. They're not the same as anybody else. They're inferior. Get out of here. You don't belong. That is one of the biggest causes of ill health, both mental and physical. Including people. Embracing them. The door of my heart is open to you. And number two, even more important, it is the damaged trees. The one which is bent and twisted, brown leaves and holes in them, and all sorts of damage on their trunk. They're the most beautiful. They're the ones I would like to have my photograph taken with. They're the ones you see sort of in art collections or photograph collections. The bent, damaged and twisted trees. So also, if any of you are bent and twisted and damaged, number one, welcome, you belong. And number two, you're probably the most delightful human beings in this auditorium. Welcome. So why do you want to straighten out all the bent trees in the forest? Why do you want to take out some sandpaper or a planer and plane off all the knobs so it's perfectly straight and smooth? No one would like to do that, except if you're a human being. So there's a sense, this is radical, but a sense of acceptance. Being so aware of yourself, you find, well, I'm just going to let myself be. Open the door of my heart to my own being. In other words, relax. Recently, just last year, I think in September, October, and I get some really great invitations, not just to the Theosophical Society in Wheaton, Chicago, which is a great organization, so please really support it. But I also got this invitation to go to, actually, you wouldn't really call it South Korea, you wouldn't call it North Korea, because it was in between the two, in the DMZ. I thought, wow, I've never been there before. So I got this invitation, a peace event after the DMZ, because apparently at the time, people told me that Mr. Kim and Mr. Trump had fallen in love. At least there was some sort of rapport there for some reason, I don't know. But anyway, so we wanted to build on that. So I went to the DMZ, and it's a very dangerous place. And as a monk, I can't lie. I was shot many times. In the DMZ, there was lots of shooting going on. Honest. Click, click, click. They were shooting videos and taking photos. That's the shooting I got. But afterwards, just before I left, they asked, can you give some last words? So people who came, the 6,000 people led on a walk, peace walk in the DMZ. 6,000 South Koreans. And they asked the last bit of advice before I had to go back to the airport to get a flight home. And I said, relax to the max. Something practical and simple. So, say after me, relax to the max. Not good enough. Come on, put some energy and effort into it. Really get into it, okay? 1, 2, 3. Relax to the max. That's much better. Now, the reason I say that is because you go away from this talk this evening, and that's one thing you remember. Relax. But you don't just say it, you actually feel it. Really get everything you've got. One more time, come on. Relax to the max. Do you feel your body relaxing? But not with force, because you have to do it, because it's joyful to do it. So this is almost like a mantra. I mean, with best respect to the Vajrayana tradition, Om Mani Padme Hum is good, but it's not as powerful as relax to the max. Because what happens then, you're mindful enough, you can actually feel your whole body being easy. No fear, no tension, because in our world, we're taught how to be afraid. And we're taught how to tense up against life, not to even enjoy life. Like even just coming here today, it was raining. Wonderful rain. Because just being able to feel nature, to be in nature, to get cold, to get wet, and have, you're going to get ill, you're going to get sick, you shouldn't do this, it will spoil your hair. I'm not worried about my hair. Even though at the airport, when you go through the customs and security, they ask you, sir, have you got any liquids in your bag? I said, no. And they said, any hair gel? That actually happened. And I looked at him and said, you must be joking. And of course, the guy laughed as well. Okay, off you go. But this is actually where that we learn not to be afraid of life and to accept life, be at peace with life, relax to the max. And even when things go a little bit interesting, like you have a tumor somewhere, or you've got some really anxiety somewhere, What do you do? So a lot of times this is a story which, again, it's basic understanding of mindfulness and kindness and meditation and just how your mind interacts with your body. Every time you have an emotional negativity, it is displayed somewhere on your body. And part of awareness, mindfulness, is learning the connection between your mind and your body. And even anger, if you get angry, try and feel anger now. Come on. Look at the way your face contorts. Do I need more practice? That doesn't look honest. I do need more practice, sorry. Trying to get angry. But if you see someone who's really angry, I think this universally, in all cultures, they can tell, that's anger on your face. So a lot of times, your muscles in your body can actually are connected to your emotions. And understanding that connection, being really aware of it, means it gives you some control of your emotional world. Instead of saying, don't get angry, don't be afraid, that makes you more angry. Who are you to tell me not to get angry? I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. But if you can feel it in your body, where exactly is that anxiety or that anger or that that fear? Where is it located? How does it feel? Get to know it first of all. To get to know it, you have to accept it first of all. But once you get to know the way the mind interacts with the body, I don't know what your problem is, whether it's anxiety, whether it's fear, whether it's anger, whatever it is, get to know how it feels. And once you get to know how it feels, don't look at the cause, the emotion, because a lot of people aren't aware and skillful enough to deal with emotions. The emotions actually deal with us. But on your body, you can actually feel just what it does to you. When it feels how it does to you, what it does to you, it's something as simple as take your hand and just massage the area which gets tense whenever you have an anxiety attack. Anxiety attacks are really, really prevalent in our modern world. People are so afraid because trying to live up to other people's expectations, trying to make it in our world, whether it's your health, whether it's your economy, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your kids or with your... It's such a tough world these days because people always are pushing each other, criticizing each other, putting us into boxes where we don't really fit. And because of that, we have a lot of anxiety. And so, if you have anxiety, feel it first of all. Get to know it, not as an emotion, but in your body. This, again, many of these stories, but just to go off on a tangent again, which I love doing, I was telling John on the way here that he's listened to so many of my talks, we're in the same monastery together for many years, and he probably knows the talks as well as I do, all my stories, as some of you do. So I got this from a gentleman over in Thailand. I didn't check out whether the story was true or not because it was such a good story, it doesn't need checking out. In case I find out it's not true. But this was the Professor Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein, who became famous over in Europe, and eventually the word got around to the US that there was a really great scientist who was well worth inviting over to places like Harvard and Princeton and Yale. So they'd only seen photos of him, grainy photos in newspapers, because this was days before TV, before internet. So no one really knew what he looked like. But nevertheless, when he arrived on a boat in New York Harbor and disembarked, that's the other thing which I was telling people. If you take a monk anywhere, please don't say, I'm going to drop you off somewhere, because dropping somebody really hurts. So you say disembark. But anyway, so there he was, he arrived at New York, and as soon as he disembarked, the universities collectively arranged a nice car for him and a chauffeur. And the chauffeur would take him to university, on the tour. And he was met at every university by the chancellor, vice chancellor, the dignitaries. Welcome, Professor Einstein. It's a great honor for you to come to our university. And then he'd give his talk, and then he'd go off to the next university. And he'd given the same talk on general relativity for so many times. On the trip to yet another university, the driver said, "Oh, I've heard your talk so many times. I think I could deliver it myself." Professor Einstein said, "Yeah, let's give it a try." So before they got to the next university, they swapped seats. Professor Einstein put on the chauffeur's hat and got behind the wheel. And the chauffeur just ruffled up his hair a bit and just put a pipe in his mouth, which was, part of the uniform for a professor in those days, and looked a bit weird. And then when they arrived at the next university, the vice chancellor opened the door, thinking it's Professor Einstein in the back, and he just came out and said, "Oh, it's a wonderful pleasure for you to come to our university." Yes, he said, even though he talked in a Brooklyn accent, that they didn't really understand it. So he came out and he went to dinner with all of the faculty members, and the real Einstein just went to the servants' quarters, for his dinner. And then the professor, the chauffeur, gave this perfect lecture on the most abstruse concepts of this universe, general relativity, and the nature of this universe. And at the end of the lecture, it was so well delivered that everyone in the audience stood up to give him a standing ovation. But there was one professor who was always just a little bit doubtful, because he never heard that Professor Einstein was born in Brooklyn. So when he asked this question, "May I ask a question, Professor Einstein?" And it was a very deep question on the interface between time and space. And the chauffeur looked at this professor, pretending to be Mr. Einstein, of course, and said, "Professor, that is such a basic question on physics. Even my chauffeur sitting in the back could answer that one." And the chauffeur gave a perfect answer. But anyway, this story, this young lady over in Adelaide University who was bedridden with anxiety. She couldn't even get out of her bed. Fortunately, she had this amazing partner, this amazing guy, who looked after her. But they couldn't continue like this. Best free doctors, psychologists could not help. But fortunately, her uncle was a follower of mine in Perth, asked me to give her a call, which I did. And so finding out what this problem was, the solution was very easy. So when you have an anxiety attack, where do you feel it? And she said, "In my chest." I said, "Not good enough. I want coordinates. Inches, quarter inches. Where's the center? Is it up to the top? How many inches? Down from the center down? Does it spread out? Is it spread out like a circle or an oval? I want detailed information about where you feel it. And give me a call when you can answer me." So number 2, with any type of therapy or help, do not take the power away from the client, because that just stigmatizes and feel even more useless, if they don't take a major part in the journey to health and well-being. Just being told what to do just means that people become far too passive and don't take responsibility and ownership of the solution. So, after 3 days, she gave a beautiful description of when she has an anxiety attack, actually where it spreads, how it grows. I said, great, now I want you to describe to me what it feels like. It feels tense. Not good enough. I want a detailed description when you have an anxiety attack, what it actually feels like. Is it sort of a tight feeling, a stretchy feeling? Does it all the same all over that area? Does it sort of lessen when you get to the edges? How does it feel? And then she gave me this amazing description 3 days later. And that was just a little trick to get her to be mindful. So aware of the physical counterpart to the emotion of anxiety that she could describe it in detail to me. She was mindful enough now. She got to know what it feels like. Now the next thing is, give it some kindness. Take your hand and massage that area of your body with a lot of kindness. If you've got a teddy bear, hug it. Give some kindness. Say if you've got a cat or something, let that sit on that area. A dog, let it lick it, whatever. Give some kindness to that area. But she just massaged it. Give me a call in a couple of days. And she gave me a call. I said, what happened? She said, oh yeah, I followed all your instructions. Now, whenever I had the anxiety attack, I got my hand and just massaged the area with real kindness. I said, what happened to the tightness, the tension, the burning in that chest? He said, oh, it just got less and less and less until it went away, disappeared. And that's a few of these moments when you really remember for the rest of your life. And over the phone I said, then what happened to the anxiety? And that's when he had the light bulb moment, the eureka moments. Because she paused. And after 5 seconds, she said, the anxiety went as well. Great. Now you know how to cure your own anxiety by caring for it. And a few days later, she was out of bed. Back to studies. Got first-class honours in dentistry from Adelaide University. And then, about a year later, she came to Perth to get married to her partner who'd done everything for her. And she insisted that I give the marriage blessings for them, which I did with great joy. And they said, you saved my life, so you should be here for this part of my life as well. So she's a wonderful girl, happily married, a couple of kids, no anxiety left. Now that is how we use mindfulness and kindness and some wisdom, some insight, to look after these things like diseases in our bodies, which actually could kill us. The same with those of you who have partners and have arguments. What do you do that for? Sometimes we do need circuit breakers when you have an argument with your loved ones. And so I have found, because I'm an expert on married life, because people tell me all their problems. So there's some really smart people. So if you have a wife who's a senator who can argue with so many people, if you're that woman who's a senator, don't think you could ever convince your husband. You can convince everyone else in the government, that you're right, but don't try and convince your husband. Same the other way around. Even if your husband's a judge, a court of law, still there's no way you can convince him he's wrong. It's a total waste of time trying to convince your partner that I am right and you are wrong. But you've got to make a decision somehow. So how can you make decisions when you know that arguing is a total, complete waste of time? In fact, it's worse than a waste of time. It actually separates you emotionally. That's why I'm saying just in the car here that partners, they shout at each other. Why? You only shout at someone when they're a long distance away, physically. But it's the same psychology. You shout at someone you love because emotionally you're distant, which is why we shout. But when you're very close to someone, you need to whisper. When you're close to somebody, physically, you don't need to raise your voice. When you're close to someone emotionally, you don't have to raise your voice either. So, and don't think your partner is deaf. That's just what they've learned over many years of marriage. What was that little story? I think somebody showed me this in a book, that there was a gentleman who went to the doctor because he had really bad hearing, and they found he had somehow, I don't know how it happened, had a pea in his ear. A dried pea, been there for years. So the doctor saw that, and so they managed to extract the pea out of his ear, so he could hear again. He went back to the doctor about a week later. Can you put the pea back in, please? Now I've got to listen to my wife non-stop. That's what it said in the book. But anyway, so to avoid such silly stuff, so we decided to find another way of dealing with arguments in politics, in marriages, and it's called the calendar method. Again, thinking outside the box, thinking things differently. And the calendar method is this. If you have a difference of opinion, and you have to make a decision, what to do. Should the wife be right? Should the husband be right? Why is it, people think, why does he always have to be right? Why is she always right? Of course, you know the answer. Because, when you're married, looking for a partner in life, you're always looking for Mr. Right. I know you've got it. He always has to be right. But anyway, so to avoid that, the calendar method. So you look at the calendar. What day of the week is it? Not what day of the month is it? So what day is it today? The 20th? 19th today. So if it's an odd day of the month, 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, then the girl is always right. So today, all the women are right. Come on, say, yeah! But be careful, because tomorrow, on the even days of the month, 2nd, 4th, 6th, 8th, then he's right. So it's a nice, easy way. Imagine if they did that in Congress. On the odd days of the month, the Democrats are right. On the even days, the Republicans are right. At least you get some work done. But that was a great suggestion, especially in a place like Australia, until they allowed same-sex marriage. Now, that totally screwed up my plans of harmony, because if it's same-gender marriage, then on that same-gender day, the one partner is right and so is the other, and they're both wrong on the other day. Anyway, it was a good try. But anyway, just when you're right, when you're wrong, how does it feel? If we can become more in touch with our physical emotions when we argue with someone we love and care for, how does that feel in your body? Forget about the emotional part of it. If you feel it in the body, there's this terrible tension inside of you. How you feel it, where you feel it, may be different, but you feel it in there. And if you really can feel what it's like to get angry at someone you care about, then it feels so harmful, so hurtful. And if you want to sort of overcome that hurt and harm, don't start thinking who's right and who's wrong, and she doesn't like me, he doesn't appreciate me, whatever. See if you can actually go to the physical feeling. Just give it a little massage. And when the physical tension goes, you'll find also the emotional distance, the emotional trauma, I call it a trauma quite carefully, of arguing with somebody you really care about. That will also disappear as well. You know why people have pet therapy? It's because if you feel sort of an animal on your chest, and it relaxes you. It's one of the great reasons why we have pet therapy in this world. Or if you don't have a pet, that one of those books, I think it's out there, Bear Awareness. And Bear Awareness is not B-A-R-E, but B-E-A-R, teddy bear awareness. Cuddling a little teddy bear. It was almost done as an experiment, as a joke, but my goodness, it really works. If you want to meditate, One of the main reasons why people have no success in meditation or spiritual cultivation is because they're far too much in the head, too little in the heart. And if you can cut a little teddy bear next to your chest, it's so easy to meditate. You're relaxing to the max with a nice teddy bear, cuddling it, and you've got your eyes closed. And I've got many photos of me meditating with a teddy bear because it works. It cultivates the kindness, the softness, the beautiful, safe humanity inside of you. And so, when that comes, this is not just anxiety. I don't know how many times people have cancers and they take, and please excuse me here, please don't sue the Theosophical Society. You can try and sue me because I'm leaving the country in a few weeks. But over 26 years now, I've been going to the main cancer group over in Perth. They had a huge new campus built by the state government, and guess who went to open it? And I thought, well, first of all, why me? Why do you want, there's no other religious people there, just Ajahn Brahm. Why? And it's because, look, what you said has really helped. And they said, one of the things, they reminded me the first time I went there, that this lady asked a question. She had breast cancer, had a mastectomy, chemotherapy, the works, and she was in remission. She's given the all clear. But she asked me, because it was such a painful time for her, such a scary time too, she asked, what would happen if it came back? And just saying it as it is, I just said, well, have you considered what would happen if it didn't come back? She hadn't even opened herself to that possibility at all. She was just run by fear it might come back. I just said, what happens if it doesn't come back? Oh, I never thought of that before. And she's been coming back to my talk for 26 years. She's always came back, but the cancer never did. And that was a great story, simple. But when we look at the other side, the other possibilities, my doctors said I'm going to die soon. No, actually, no doctor ever says that these days. The prognosis looks so bad. What are you talking about? So for every cancer there is, for every person who's diagnosed with cancer, there's that many different types of cancer in this world. Every type is totally different. We're only sort of just doing on probabilities. And a lot of times we believe that. We actually kill ourselves. And I'm saying that with great care, one of the experiments I just mentioned this earlier to someone, which I saw as a student in Cambridge. I was a member of the Psychic Research Society. One of my best friends at the time, also in the Psychic Research Society, also a Buddhist, by the way, was this gentleman called Professor Bernard Carr. If you look him up, you will find that he was a very close disciple of Professor Stephen Hawkins, and featured in the movie with Stephen Hawkins. So I was a close friend of Stephen Hawkins, and also one of my best friends. We went to this Psychic Research Society, investigating all sorts of weird phenomena, like a good scientist should. And one of those experiments which was done was they had a 4-inch nail on the end of a piece of wood. They hypnotized one of the students, and as they hypnotized the student, they convinced him on hypnosis that the nail was red hot. It was just room temperature. And then they touched the nail on the student's skin. He screamed in pain. That I could understand. What I couldn't understand, what left me just stunned, for all this time, was that when they touched the skin with a nail at room temperature, not only did he scream, but a blister came up, a burn, a physical trauma came up. His mind had created a visible wound, a burn, which they obviously had to treat like any other burn. And I wondered ever since that time, if the mind can create a burn, can the mind create a tumor? Can the mind decrease a tumor? Can the mind get rid of a disease? That is one of the areas where I think that science and medicine and the mind should interact and find out exactly what is going on when we do have these amazing cures. Because one of the most powerful parts of the mind is to care. And we've lost a lot of that. Even if you ever go to, this is no one's fault except our modern world, you go to a hospital and people just rush you through the system. Even poor nurses, that they haven't got time to talk to anybody, to hold your hand and just to check up on you, how you're going and just what's your life like, and just to chat with you. Instead, what happens, they've got to just take your blood temperature, take this, and then write it all up and do a report. So that personal contact of care is hardly there anymore. So those are the sorts of things. Yeah, mindfulness, be aware of what's going on, and just a bit more kindness and caring in our life. And it's amazing what we can do, whether it's personal, well, your poor kids. How many people care for your kids? I used to be a teacher, a school teacher. And I just saw just what life does to kids. And try to do the opposite. Number one, we have exams. And I had to sit next to my best friend, competing against him during an exam. And I hated that. And sometimes you want to pass him. I know, this is the answer. The teacher punished me for that. They called it cheating. It's not cheating. It's cooperation. It's kindness. Because in real life, wherever you go, it's kindness, cooperation. That's important in life. But anyway, I'll end up with this story, that I was, at the end of the school year, I was only teaching for 1 year, high school. At the end of the year, one kid in my class came 30th, in a class of 30 kids. Now, it says nothing about that kid's intelligence. If you had 30 children, one was Albert Einstein, just one was Stephen Hawking, there's one with a school of geniuses, one would have to come bottom. But then I said, but why was it me who came bottom? Said this kid, because when I gave him the report cards, he looked at it and his face went down, his shoulders drooped. It was what any psychologist would recognize as the first stages of depression. As he started to think all the terrible things which would happen to him when he got home from school and he showed his parents his bad result, about how all his friends would call him dummy, dum-dum, stupid, and I wouldn't accept that. So I went to him and I said, I'm very proud of you. And he looked at me a bit weird. And I said, they all knew I was a Buddhist, even when I was a school teacher. I even actually, so 1973, I taught meditation, because we had to, for 1 week, we had to take the morning meeting, the morning assembly. And I taught 650 kids every morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, how to meditate. And that was in 1973. And I still remember to this day, they were quiet during the meditation, which was weird, 650 high school kids. And afterwards, they gave me an ovation for that. Somehow or other, you'd actually touch something which no one else was touching. There's the power and the rest of stillness. But anyway, so I told this kid at the end, I said, I'm a Buddhist. I want to introduce you to something we call in Buddhism the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva is somebody who sacrifices their own happiness and well-being for the sake of others. And I said, you, young man, are the Bodhisattva. You've deliberately, I know you can do much better in maths than this, but you've deliberately, on purpose, taken this terrible position of bottom of the class, so none of your friends have to suffer what you're going to get from your parents tonight. You've sacrificed so much. And I know you've done it on purpose. All the other people in the class, they just think of themselves. What they want to do and how they want to sort of get praise from their parents and their friends for being smart. But as for you, wow, you're much higher than those spiritually. You're sacrificing yourself. So letting go of your own safety and well-being so none of your friends have to get what you're going to get from your mum and dad tonight. And so I'm going to go, as soon as I finish here, I'm going to go to the principal's office and I'm going to recommend you for the Bodhisattva of the Year award in this school. I remember him looking at me and saying, "It's the craziest teacher he'd ever had in his life." But at least he broke his depression. When he didn't take it like at the end of the world. They didn't think his life was finished at 13 or 14 because he came bottom of the class. And just making a joke out of that, just put it in perspective. But I also gave him encouragement by saying, in this school, you're only allowed to get the Bodhisattva prize once. Please let another kid get the Bodhisattva. Don't be so selfish. Let another kid get the Bodhisattva prize next year. And that way, he remembered that story, and also it put a lot of things in perspective and why we take one failure in life. It's not a failure anyway, it's just learning, growing. We take one failure and it wrecks our whole life.
I just finished reading your book, Mindfulness, Bliss, and Beyond.
Yep.
And I'd very much like to pursue the path of jhana.
Oh, yep.
But I'm a householder.
Yep.
So I'm looking for advice on how to do that kind of deep work with some of the constraints of being a householder with a wife, kid, job, competing responsibilities, and so on.
Yeah. It's a very good question. But first of all, you have to complete your responsibilities. And number two is, do you want to get into these deep meditations? Because if you want it, you will never get it. And that is not just a joke, it's the wanting which stops. Now already I said a few little things like relaxing to the max. To relax to the max, you can't want to relax. It's going in a different direction. It's just letting things be. Letting go of wanting. Just opening the door of your heart to this moment unconditionally. And to be able to do that and maintain that for long enough with patience, you will find everything stops. I did this last time, but John, could you come up? I've known you for many years. I trust you implicitly. Now, I just want you to have a look at this water and to be absolutely honest. Has this water stopped moving yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. And why? It's because I'm not being mindful now. I'm just looking somewhere else. I'll now be mindful. Has this water stopped moving yet?
It's worse.
Worse. That's what mindfulness does. So I'll now concentrate as well. I'll be mindful and concentrate.
Not doing it.
I want it to stop moving. I'm grasping it, making a big problem of it, and it's a very simple, easy way to get this water to be perfectly still. Stop grasping, stop holding, stop interfering with it, and soon it becomes still all by itself. Not yet, but it takes a bit of time. But this is how to meditate. Sometimes we want success, we want to get something. It's that wanting disturbs our mind. And so to really meditate and to get deep, stop wanting to get jhanas, stop wanting to get enlightened. It's the Tibetan teacher Trungpa, who was very dodgy in other areas, I must admit, but he said some very wise things. One of them was pointing out spiritual materialism. Where we see something, we want it. We work hard for it, we get frustrated. Because they don't realize that this is not something of the world which you get through wanting and through striving. It's when you let go. You let things be. And you sit there just observing, just watching, just being. Not going anywhere. Not trying to get anywhere. But just being here. Peacefully caring for this moment. Because you don't do anything, because all this wanting which causes all this doing stops, usually what happens is you fall asleep. But that's only the first stage. After a while, when you catch up on your sleep deficit, which I think you all know, no one sleeps enough in this country, except people who are dead. That's why, where do you find people resting in peace? In coffins, it's a bit late then, you can't enjoy them. So, rest in peace when you're alive. Be peaceful. You don't be peaceful through striving, that makes you more tense. You learn how to go, and this is, thank you for the question, it's a powerful, deep question. So many people, they think that deep meditation, deep wisdom you get through effort. Sort of effort to stop, just to be, not to do anything. And then after a while, your mind becomes perfectly still. Amazing. That's what happens. You might try all your life, trying to get this, trying to get that. And you're going in the wrong direction. This is where you are, this is where you want to be over there. Instead, where I am is where I want to be. Right now, nothing to do. And then because of that, your mind becomes very peaceful. So peaceful, it gets energized. When it gets energized, it gets very brilliant. And you didn't do it. It's like a default state of the mind, which are always running somewhere else, instead of just leaving things alone, letting go, being peaceful, and just watching all this thing happen naturally. You never did it. It's when you get out of the way, that's when it happens. It's like, I get caught with this question a lot. They say, okay, Ajahn Brahm, you write all about these deep meditations, jhanas, enlightenment, all this stuff. Ajahn Brahm, can you do these things? Come on, be honest. Don't be a hypocrite. And so I say to people, Ajahn Brahm cannot get jhanas. I can't do it. And people who know me think, there's some trick to that answer. I'm a very sneaky monk. Sneaky. And so, what, you teach jhanas all this time? Are you a hypocrite? I said, no. I said, I can't enter a jhana. Ajahn Brahm has to disappear, first of all. I have to vanish. And with me, all my wanting, striving, trying to get things, that has to vanish. When that vanishes, these jhanas just happen. But I take no responsibility for it. I have to disappear, first of all. And there's the venerable monks from Sri Lanka in the front here, some of the great sayings in the Visuddhimagga. The path is, but no traveller on it is seen. If you try and travel the path to wisdom and enlightenment, it's just more of the same. You're doing it. The most scary thing, to let this path happen without you taking control. And enlightenment is, but not the person who enters it. You vanish. What I call the art of disappearing, one of the books. And the start of that book, I said, often people come up to me and said, Ajahn Brahm, you could have done so much in this world. You had a great degree from university, great university, you're a loser, Ajahn Brahm. And I love that word. I say, yes, you understand me. I'm a loser. Thank you for that wonderful piece of praise. Because remember Ajahn Chah teaching us, you meditate not to gain things, but to let go of things, to lose things. So in the foreword to that book, which actually I'm very happy the publishers allowed that foreword to get in there without editing it, I ended up by saying, may you all get lost.